I don't know if there's other stuff. This is just for this year. This is not the I noticed in September, mine. And you guys want to put one together for what you did last time?
Since we're broadcasting all over the world here, I'm going to write down the restroom code for you. In case
Oh,
you
okay,
want to
thank
use
you. Thanks.
A little keypad over there. Since we're broadcasting live, and we're broadcasting on our YouTube channel, these meetings, I'm going to write down the restroom code for you. So if you need to use the restroom, there's a little cipher code, and that's it. That's the code. So I'll
I
do the
don't
same.
even know what to use the code for.
What's that?
I don't even know what to use the code for.
To get in the door. It's at the restroom.
Oh, to get in the door. Oh, I see. I see. All right,
We've
yeah,
had some
thank you.
issues with folks coming in during COVID and just trying to live in our restrooms, so we have to put a lock on them. There you go.
Do we have anybody online with us tonight?
Online, I can do a roll call if you like. Would you like me to?
Yeah, I see. Okay. Okay, so go ahead, do a roll call, please.
Did you want to call to order?
I will call the meeting to order.
Okay. So I will do a roll call. Sid Williams,
Here,
Juan Lopez,
Here.
Kevin Dayton,
Here.
Charlene Hughes, Bobby Merritt, Steve Macias,
Present.
and Christine Wing.
Yes, here.
Thank you. And then you can see on who's on from staff on Zoom. So you
okay,
do have a quorum today.
we have a forum, okay? So the first item then on the agenda is public comment for any item not on today's agenda. Is there anybody in the room that has public comment?
I'll take this opportunity. Carl Sidoric, CEO for Monterey Salinas Transit. Welcome back to your first in-person meeting for Measure Q Committee in 2 years. Thank you for coming in. And we have some new technological improvements that have occurred in that time, allowing for remote conference attendance by staff and by our other board members, or committee members. Just a few things about our boardroom. Since COVID, we have implemented what's called an bipolar ionic filtration system. So any small particles, whether they're pollen or viruses, including COVID, are actually electrostatically charged and trapped. And this room has every 5 minutes gets a 100% refresh of air. Just to let you know that. Also, we have started broadcasting our meetings live on our YouTube channel. So our meetings are going out to the public, and the public can watch as well as participate via Zoom teleconference as well, either telephonically or on the via the screen by raising their hands. So I just wanted to let you know that we've adapted and changed over time, but wanted to welcome you back to the MST boardroom for your Measure Q meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for the allergy control.
This is the place Putin comes here.
That's right.
Wow. All right, is there anyone with us on Zoom, public comment for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment and we'll move to the consent agenda. So we have the minutes of our last meeting in August. I'll give everybody a few minutes to look them over. Do any of the members of the committee have any questions about the minutes that you see? Any
No.
members of the public have any questions about the minutes that you see? Then I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
Okay, I'll second.
1 second. Is there any further discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, you want to call the roll for that, Jeanette?
A roll call vote, Sid Williams,
Aye.
Juan,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
and then Christine.
Aye.
And Steve,
Aye.
thank you, the motion passed.
Okay, thank you. So then now we go to appointments for the Measure Q Oversight Committee. Is Lisa with us? Or someone's?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't expecting this. This was actually on your consent agenda as well. But these are the appointments. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. They were approved by the board earlier this month.
Good. So everybody that's here is up to speed.
Absolutely.
Good. All right, thank you for that. Any questions from the meeting? Any questions from any of the committee online? None. Then we go to new business, which is to review the Measure Q Oversight revenues and expenses for this year. And welcome back.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Lisa Reinheimer, Assistant General Manager for MST. And every year we report to this committee about the expenses, audited expenses of the Measure Q funds. So this last year was better than the previous year in terms of the revenues collected. We were up by 13.2% from the previous year. So in 2020, it was $9.5 million. This last FY21 was 10.8, just under $10.8 million of revenues collected, and those were spent on a number of different Measure Q programs. And if you want to get into any of the details, aside from what I'm going to talk about, we've got folks on the Zoom, as well as Norm Tuitavuki, who's our Chief Operating Officer in charge of all things mobility. So we spent the funds on rides, of course, the door-to-door transit services that's required by ADA. We spent monies on taxi voucher programs, special medical trips. Those are every so often to the Bay Area for folks who need to get to specialized medical appointments, Palo Alto, some in San Jose and what have you. As well as a new program that was started through Measure Q, the TRIPS program. It's a travel reimbursement for people who are outside of our general service area. So, a person who maybe needs a little extra help to get to doctor's appointments and what have you can ask their neighbor to do it and they'll get reimbursed for that travel expense. It just further allows us to provide assistance to folks without that expense. We did travel training with folks, mostly virtual, but there's been some in-person travel training at our Mobility Services Center in Salinas, our indoor streetscape to show people how to navigate through our bus system. And that supports our fixed route services as well. We have some navigator program where volunteers are out there in the buses and helping folks navigate through our fixed route system. And then we have senior and veteran shuttles. Those are the 90s series, 91, 92, 93, 94, and 95 buses that are specifically designed to transport people from senior care facilities to medical appointments, that type of thing. And we work closely with those communities to make sure those routes are designed for those specific needs. There's also some support on our fixed route side of services, where we utilize some Measure Q funds for people who are older than 65 for our seniors. And that is, the calculation is based on surveys that we've done of our fixed route passengers on their age. And in support of that, as well as our mobility department, who are mostly on Zoom, and the wonderful services that they provide to our community. So that's what we spent Measure Q funds on this last year. You can see we have a letter from our auditors, Bailey, as well as a portion of the financial report on attachment 2, which goes into some of the financials. And then the recommendation to the committee is to provide the draft, have your chair sign the letter to the MSD Board of Directors that Measure Q funds were indeed spent on eligible expenses under the Measure Q program. And with that, I'll stop there, answer any questions that I can. We also have Andrea Williams, who is our accounting and budget manager, who can help out on the financial side too, if there are any specific questions.
Okay, does a member of the Measure Q committee have questions for Lisa? Members present in the room.
I do have a question, maybe more appropriate for the policy committee, regarding the proposal from the governor to provide 3 months of free transit. Is that in any way going to be able to apply to any of the special expenses that Measure Q pays for?
Do you want to answer that?
I can try.
Okay.
Carl Sidorek, CEO for MST. We just had a discussion on Friday with our lobbyists in Sacramento who are reviewing that, and I think I can unequivocally say that absolutely maybe that may be the case. Those are some of the concerns that we have. Is the MST Rides program, if we provide free service on our fixed route services, as the governor implies, we must, under federal law, provide free service on the MST Rides program at a minimum. And so because of the Americans with Disabilities Act states that we cannot charge the MST Rides program customers more than 2 times the rate that we are charge our fixed route customers. Currently, we charge our ADA customers of the MST Rides program equally to our fixed route services. We can't do more than 2 times by law. 2 times free is free. So we would be, for the MST Rides program, offering free service under the governor's proposal, should that move forward. My understanding is that is a decision that is going to be up to the local public transit operator to determine to accept the funding. So the idea is the governor is going to make, or is asking the legislature to make funds available to public transit operators who can elect to provide free service to their community with those funds, should they choose to do so. So that's where we are today. So if the MST board directs staff to get free funding for the MST fixed route service, then we would by federal law be required to provide free service on the MST Rides program.
And then you need to keep track of what you actually provided, and then that the government's going to reimburse
We
you
do not
that
have
much?
those details yet. We don't know if it's just they have calculated what our fares were in 2019. They did this statewide. My understanding is that statewide, they using the state controller's report, which we all that audit that you receive that's in your packet is on financial statements that are put together and included in a report to the state controller's office. They calculated pre-pandemic 2019 what all of the fares collected were in the state for all of the public transit operators reporting to the state, rail operators. They took that number, divided it by 12, multiplied it by 3, then increased it perhaps by some percentage that I'm not aware of. I'm told it was increased because offering free might induce demand. So if there's an induced demand, they want to make certain that we recapture those fares as well. This is still a proposal. It's not, it hasn't happened yet, but it could. And then there's decisions that the MST board would need to make. Then from a policy perspective, the MST rides program would have to be free. We would then, from a policy perspective, then need to determine things like what do we do with the taxi vouchers and other programs. So it starts to get complicated as you start getting more granular with the various programs.
Answer your question.
Yeah. So I think, Mr. Chairman, it's possible we could have hopefully
A free summer.
When the reports come out next year, we'll have to reflect some of these changes.
Absolutely.
And it will be interesting to see if there's a significant change in ridership or to what extent Measure Q funds are done. So
Right.
I think, as you prepare things, keep in mind the Oversight Committee and how we'll have to get these annual reports with that taken into account. It can
Absolutely.
actually be, ultimately could be promoted as a very positive development for the agency. So,
Absolutely. We certainly have capacity on our vehicles today. We're not full. We're probably at about half full, maybe 60% of where we were pre-COVID. So if demand is induced by this, we have capacity. We have quite a bit of capacity to fill on board our buses.
Sure, thank you.
thank you.
Any further questions? from
Yeah, I have
members in the room?
I have a
Go
follow-up
ahead,
to
Paul.
that. So if, you do receive state funding for this and we have like surplus of the Measure Q revenue, what do you could consider like subsidizing some of these programs even more throughout the year because we're having less use of these funds?
That certainly would be something that the board could consider at that time. We haven't completed our fiscal year budget proposal to our board, but something that we are doing and contemplating as we're developing our budgets for the next year is we do have the innovative clean transit rule that's been adopted by the state that mandates public transit operators and all their vehicles be 100% zero emission, either battery electric or hydrogen fuel cells by 2040. And over time, we are restricted in the number of conventionally fueled vehicles that we can purchase each year. So we are taking surplus funds at this point and reserving a sinking fund for what we estimate to be a $75 to $100 million unfunded mandate to convert our entire fleet over the next decade to 100% zero emission buses. So some surplus might go to operations, but we'll also be reserving some for what we know will be a very substantial capital program to convert our fleet to battery electric or hydrogen fuel cell. So I'll just leave that out there as a foreshadowing of what you might see in a future budget.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sure.
Is there any Measure Q members online that have, I see no hands up. Does anybody put their hand up if they have a question about this issue? Seeing none, is there any member of the public online or present who wishes to ask a question about this issue? Seeing none, I will ask one question. Lisa, in your presentation, you listed all the different things that the Measure Q funds were used for. One thing I did not see, and maybe you or Carl could make me smarter about it, is the support that MST provides to the stand down. Again, that's happening this year, and your representative has been at our stand down meeting. So I know you're going to be doing something there. Are Measure Q funds being used in that program?
Sure, yeah, I'll briefly speak to what I know about the program. So we are really early on. Norm Tuitaruki, Chief Operating Officer. We've been in discussions with MV Transportation, the folks who handle the fixed ride programs for us, and or the fixed route, some of our fixed route, and they actually did the transportation in previous years for this particular event, and we've asked them to consider providing the same level of service at the same rate, which was donated to us. So that's what we're in the process of doing. So as far as staff time, it doesn't take a whole lot of time. So that's something that we wouldn't, line out as a specific Measure Q expense, because that's just basic staff time that we account for on our daily basis. But other than that, going forward, if there's something that we need from the Measure Q board, we will come to you folks, but we don't believe it's going to be something outside of the scope of what's already been approved in our budget.
But if MST is expending funds for pay, driver time or whatever, that would come from Measure Q funds authorized for that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm seeing no further questions, then I will entertain a motion to approve, accept the report and approve, or give me permission to sign this letter. Is that what I'm supposed to do?
Here, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve this letter to the chair of the MST Board of Directors, stating that you are authorized to submit the letter.
I'll second.
We'll have a motion in a second. Any further discussion from online or local present? Seeing none, Jeanette, will you please call the roll?
So for item 5-1, I will take the roll call vote. Sid Williams,
Aye.
Juan Lopez,
Aye.
Kevin Dayton,
Aye.
Steve Macias,
Aye.
Christine Wing.
Aye.
The motion passed.
Okay. So now where are we? That's presentations, we have none. Business, I guess that brings us to staff and committee comments or questions. Yes, sir.
Yes. Once again, Carl Sidoric for MST, and I apologize in my opening comments. I neglected to introduce to you your newest Measure Q committee member, Christine Wing from the Meals on Wheels, and who is representing your unincorporated county of Monterey. She lives in the Carmel Valley area, and she was put forward as a candidate for Measure Q by Supervisor Adams and appointed to this committee by the MST board. Welcome, Christine. Thank you. Coming back from COVID, I'm still trying to regain my social skills, and I should have done this in my opening comments. Thank you very much for being on this committee.
No worries.
I too welcome Christine. I worked with her in a couple of other capacities, and she's a great lady, and will be a big asset to have her on the shoe committee. So welcome aboard, Christine.
Thanks, Sid.
Okay, any further staff comments or questions of the committee? Any further questions or comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, then I call the meeting adjourned.
We're back at it.